Senators Rubio and Kirk introduced a legislation late this morning that would bar the administration from permitting kind of one-step removed dollar transactions for Iran of the kind that we've been talking
Right.
about and others have been talking about. Do you know, recognizing that this is mainly a Treasury thing, but do you know if the administration is this a necessary piece of legislation, or do you think it is unnecessary? And if you do think it's unnecessary, why?
So I would hate to speak on it before I've actually seen it or that we've actually properly studied it. I can simply say what we said and what Tom Shannon said yesterday on the Hill, which is that, the administration has not been and is not planning to grant Iran access to the U.S. financial system. I understand that's not what you're asking. You're asking about this other.
Well, frankly, I'm not sure exactly who it is that is saying that you're going to grant Iran access to the financial system. We certainly haven't said that in our reporting. The question that was raised to Ambassador Shannon yesterday in the Foreign Relations Committee that more directly addressed what it is that we understand the administration is considering was raised by Senator Rubio, and that is the allowing non-Iranian and non-U.S. banks to do trades in dollars for deals that involve Iran, as long as the dollars don't end up in the.
So my understanding is that is not what's under consideration at all.
What is it under consideration?
I'm not going to say, except to say that no. But I mean, no, Matt. Just to clarify, okay. Let me.
Because in fact, that is what we understand as being.
I understand that you believe that's what's being considered.
Well,
what I would say is that we continue to advise banks and other governments on ways that they can conduct business with Iran in a way that does not violate existing U.S. sanctions. And there are ways to do that, but it does not involve banks converting money to dollars or otherwise.
Well, it actually inherently does. So, but it does because as you know, the international commerce finance is structured in such a way that huge amounts of transactions from currency A to currency C go through currency B, which is the dollar. But anyway, so you're saying right now that you guys are out there. You guys are out there coaching. Advising. Okay,
but that's
coaching.
But
coaching banks and businesses how to do deals in such a way. Well, you say you're advising them how to do deals in such a way that you can avoid the U.S. sanctions.
Matt,
penalties for violating
what I would
US
say
sanctions.
in response
is that really the role?
So what I would say in response is that as Iran complies with the JCPOA and receives a certain amount of sanctions relief, it is incumbent on us, and the Secretary spoke about this the other day, it is incumbent on us to live up to our end of this deal, which is and part of that is to advise these banks and governments on ways that they can
avoid U.S. sanctions.
That they can work.
Okay. Is that the role of the U.S.
within
government? It is. They can get around.
I don't necessarily the idea of coaching. I think it's simply our obligation as part of the JCPOA to advise them that they don't. I mean, these banks don't want to violate existing U.S. sanctions.
Right. So you're telling them here's
but
how
they
you
are.
can do it.
But they are.
No,
but they are. Sorry, but they are allowed to, under certain conditions, to do business with Iran. So it's we do consider an obligation on how to how to counsel them on that.
Right. You're basically telling foreign banks and foreign companies how they can use loopholes in U.S. sanctions.
That's inaccurate.
To avoid.
That's inaccurate. But
okay. Well, what is it? What are they? They're telling them here's what you can do to not violate U.S. sanctions. I understand the way you're putting it is you're telling them what they can do that is legal.
I just think it is, again, it's part of an effort to provide guidance to ensure that they understand clearly the extent of U.S. sanctions relief. And it's complicated. And to advise them on that is not necessarily giving some kind of tacit approval to, or somehow some workaround by which they can avoid, or loopholes, as you put it. I think that's just not what we're trying to do.
But
But
you're telling them how they can do business with Iran without falling afoul of U.S. sanctions. Is that not correct?
it's advising them on how they can, I guess that they understand the extent of U.S. sanctions relief that's been provided under the deal, so that they can carry out appropriate actions, again, as stipulated under the JCPOA.
Right. Getting back to the
with the
legislation,
sorry.
you think it's unnecessary? You don't.
And my answer to that, sorry, was before I got sidetracked, was let's look at the legislation. That's okay, Leslie.
Tom Shannon's testimony caused some confusion because he bluntly said, no, you're not considering it. Or was he, actually I'm thinking, was he particularly talking about not access to the US financial system? But the President and John Kerry, as well as Jack Lew, have basically admitted you're looking at this issue to clarify to businesses what is acceptable and what is not.
Correct, which is what I was trying, perhaps not well, to explain to Matt, is that we are trying to counsel them, but that does not mean that we're saying that, or we're planning to grant Iran access to U.S. financial systems. And I think that was the point that the President made, Kerry's made, Secretary Kerry's made. Sorry.
But
Are you
no one
answering their questions when they come to you, or are you proactively going out? The Financial Times yesterday described it as a roadshow. Are you approaching foreign banks and telling them this stuff, or do you wait until they say, "Hey, we're planning to do such and such a deal with Iran"?
I wouldn't refer to it as a roadshow. I think we're advising them as appropriate.
But you're proactively advising them, or you're responding to
I don't
queries?
know, David. I just don't know the extent of how proactive we are about it. I think we're trying to do it within what we feel is our obligations under the JCPOA.
Forget about this. I mean, I think this is a straw man argument that people have set up based on maybe some incorrect assumptions or interpretations, or what is it for? The question is not whether you're going to give them Iran access to the U.S. financial system. No one that I know of has.
Well, that has been levied, that charge.
Yeah, it has
Whether
been
it's
out
a
there,
straw man or not.
But it has been denied. That is no longer the issue.
But I understand what you're asking, which is through various or whatever that will somehow allow them to transfer.
No, the whole
money into
idea
dollars.
is that the whole idea is that the Iranians never touch the dollars themselves. But that they are able to take advantage of transactions that occur in dollars, shorthand being dollarized transactions. In other words, country X wants to sell or buy something from Iran, and that country's currency gets converted. Iran wants to be paid in euros. That country's currency gets converted into euros through dollars, as it often happens on the international exchanges. That is the question, and that when Ambassador Shannon was asked that question directly yesterday, he certainly didn't deny it. So anyway, that's the point about this. What brings about the question about this legislation that was introduced today. So if you say that no, that is not at all, or what is part of it, then I think logically you would say, well, this legislation is unnecessary because we weren't planning to do that.
Haven't seen the
anyway.
legislation. I'm simply was stating that we don't believe that that's a necessary formula as well in order to comply with the JCPOA and our obligations under it. But I would defer, obviously, to numerous experts at the Department of Treasury.